During the mix process, I'll put the track in mono because a lot of systems in clubs and festivals are generally in mono. The first thing I always go for is the drums and then the bass correlation with the kick drum. I have been using this God Particle plugin for quite a bit. I really do like the sound of it. I never mix in solo and not hear the rest of the song around it. That tube distortion just bringing out those mid-range parts of the sound. Just want to try and catch those peaks, that bum, bum, bum. And once you go through this process with a lot of the sounds, there's not much else to do. Yeah, let's start getting into it. It feels pretty good now. Just kind of listening of what I think should be done on this record. I mean, the first thing I always go for is always the drums and then the bass correlation with the kick drums. So let's have a listen to the drums by themselves. The thing is as well is that when I do mix, I never mix in solo. And what I mean by that is I'll never just kind of work on a kick drum and EQ it and compress it and do that all in solo and not hear the rest of the song around it. That's the worst thing you could ever do. You want to hear what the end result is going to be like. So, you know, unless you're really fixing a problem, leave it, you know, as the whole track and work on it like that. But at this moment in time, I'm just going to have a listen to the drums by themselves just to get a feel of how they're sounding. So let's do that. Cool, so the first thing I want to look at for sure is that first kick drum and the 808. I just want to hear how that's sitting currently. So we are going to solo. Moonlight, you and I, down by the waters. Cool, so what we're going to do here is, because we're not in a 4/4 pattern, I can definitely hear straight away that some of that kick drum is clashing with that 808, mainly because that 808 is quite punchy, especially after we added the overdrive. It's almost acting as a kick by itself. So what we're going to need to do at that point is clean it up with some sidechain, but you can't add the sidechain that you've seen me using throughout this project. You're going to need a compressor where you can trigger from that kick drum, and the Nicky Romero plugin won't do that. Not as far as I know anyway, because that's very much based on I think on the new version you can change the time signatures, but in this case I'm gonna go to what I know, which is I'm actually gonna use just the Logic compressor, and I'm gonna put that on the bass channel here. So we go to Dynamics, Compressor, and we have just the standard compressor there. I'm going to turn the auto gain off. I'm going to turn the auto release off, and we're going to sidechain up here. I'm going to change that to the kick. So a lot of people send the kick to a bus and mute that bus, but it's not necessary in this case. You know, I know that I'm going to be using it and so on. So yeah, let's get that kick in. So kick one, and again, look, we labelled it there. It was easy to get to. I didn't have to hunt for it. Moonlight, you and I, down by. Sorry, I actually labelled that wrong. We need to go back to kick one, put that as kick one, and that as kick two. So I need to get kick. Kick one, cool. Cool, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna solo that kick. And like I mentioned, the reason I'm soloing this is because we have an issue here. We have an issue with the kick and the bass correlation. You can hear the clashing slightly, so I'm soloing them to fix this issue. So let's play around and see if we can fix it. I'm going to show you the extreme version so you can hear what this compressor is actually doing. As you can see, it's completely ducking the bass when the kick is hitting. Obviously that's completely extreme and we don't need it that much. So I'm just going to back off slightly. I'm going to bring the attack down to about a millisecond. And the way I always do is I do have it quite extreme so that I can get the attack and the release correct. And then I'll start to back off of the threshold. The ratio is fine at 2.1. That's obviously just how hard and how extreme you're going to be using the compressor. And the thing is, you don't really want to hear that it's doing anything. You just want it to just feel natural. So that's why you can hear me just backing off and backing off and backing off, just until I can hear it doing what it needs to do. I don't even really look at, you know, is it just touching the needle on the compressor? It's just listen to it and just see how you feel. How does it make you feel? Nice. What's actually happening here is the compressor is bringing the bass, the 808, down by minus 5 dB every time that kick drum hits. You can see that here. Let's have a listen now, overall.
Moonlight, you and I, down by the water's edge until sunrise. You're giving me life.
So now I can hear instantly they're not fighting as much, the kick and the 808, they're working together now, whereas before they were just completely fighting. Cool, the thing that I want to look at now, I'm going to mute this synth pluck. See, I can hear that straight away, the low end in that brass pad is clashing a bit with the 808, so let's have a quick look at that. And this is the part which I kind of call the cleaning up. This is where I won't, you know, go into things and start adding compressors and really kind of dialing in sounds. This is the cleanup part where it's just making room for everything and letting everything breathe. And you'll find by doing this process that you won't actually have to add a lot of stuff. If you've got the correct sounds in your song, and you've done a good cleanup of all the sounds and they're working together, you won't actually need to do a lot more else than that, other than some gain staging and some automation at parts. But I'm going to show you now, it will come together pretty quick. So yeah, you can just see straight away that around from 50 to around 200, we've got quite a lot of low end in that brass pad. Something that I do a lot as well is I listen to the as I'm going along during the mix process. I'll put the track in mono, especially at these points when I'm working on bass and kick. The reason I do that is because a lot of a lot of systems in clubs and festivals are generally in mono. So there's been many times where I've listened to certain songs and there'd be pianos, or, you know, people have put a kind of a stereo imager on an 808, and by the time you get to the club, you've just completely lost it, because if it's a mono system, they're only looking at here, and if your bass is out here, you get there and you'll just be like, why am I not hearing any of my bass line? And that'd be for that reason that a lot of those systems are in mono. So always really important to check your mix in mono. Cool, so back to the drums. I'm gonna mute that synth plug again. The one thing I like to add on my drums bus is a plugin from Aliens. It's the black box. This is something that I've always used on my drums, but I won't add it in the start. It's basically a saturation plugin, distortion plugin, but it's great. And yeah, you need to be careful to not overdo it on this. So let me just have a quick look at, say, drums bus. See, straight away, just super boomy. Also, let's keep in mind that we've got the limiter there as well, so let's see what the limiters do. And obviously it's down to personal preference what you want, but for me, I want to barely hear it. I want to feel it, but I want to barely hear that it's adding any kind of distortion there. Nice, I like where that's sitting. Yeah, cool. Let's start having a look at a few of those other elements of that synth plug. Let's see where we're sitting with that. Going to check the limiters on my master as well. You just got to make sure that you're not going into it too hard. And like I said, I have been using this God Particle plugin from Jason Joshua quite a bit. I really do like the sound of it, especially since they brought out version 2. So yeah, that's it's definitely a firm part of my process at the moment. I feel like this is just a bit weak, this sound, so I just want to, I think maybe just a bit of saturation on this will help. Again, just in my head, because I know what it sounds like, the overdrive from Logic, really great. Let's get some of that down. Nice, I like what that's doing. You can hear the difference straight away. Obviously it's slightly louder. I am trying to compensate for the level on the output, but you can just hear that tube distortion just bringing out those mid-range parts of the sound. One thing that I tend to use as well is Arvox from Waves. I do like using this plugin. It's an easy way of compressing something, but it has a certain charm about it. You can use it on anything. I've seen people use this all the time on different things. People have used this on bass, synths, so. The reason I'm adding this or seeing if it works is I just want to try and catch those peaks, that bum, 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 bum. And rather than adding the standard compressor, I feel like it's almost like something that a vocal would do. It's those kind of sibilant kind of pops. Let's move on. Let's have a listen from the intro. So straight away, those synth plugs are too loud now, so let's bring that down slightly. Have we got automation on the volume on there? No, cool.
You and I, down by the water's edge until sunrise. You give me life, you give me life.
I'm just going to pull back on that side chain on that vocal chop. It feels way too much. Let's put it down to 50.
Moonlight, you and I, down by the water's edge until sunrise. You give me life, you give me life.
So yeah, scrap what I said earlier. You can actually use the new version of Kickstart, and you can use either MIDI or audio, and then obviously choose the sidechain here. So you can use this plugin for sure.
Moonlight, you and I, down by the water's edge until sunrise. You give me life.
Pull back on that sidechain on the crash cymbal.
Until sunrise, you give me life, you give me life. We've been through it all together.
So in that snap, I can hear there's as you would naturally get from snaps, there's definitely a frequency there which is slightly hurting my ears. So let's have a look where that is.
Moonlight, you and I, down by the water's edge until sunrise. You give me life, you give me life. We've been through it all together. You give me life. Moonlight, you and I.
What I am going to do now is, because we've pulled out that transient, which essentially does give it that snap, I'm going to re-add it back in with a transient plugin. There's a great one from Native Instruments called Transient Master. Let's try adding a bit of attack back in.
Moonlight, you and I, down by the water's edge until sunrise. You give me life, you give me life. We've been through it all together. You give me life, you give me
So you can just hear how it's completely cleaned up that sound. We've done a slight bit of EQ and taken that peak out. And now we've added the transient master to it to give it that snap again. Oof, complete difference. And that's what I was saying, once you go through this process with a lot of the sounds, there's not much else to do. You know, there's obviously the vocals and things like that, but you've done the majority, you've picked the right sounds, in my opinion. You've cleaned up the mix with, you know, making sure things aren't clashing, taking the sibilance out of whether it's vocals or things like the snap that I just showed you, and all of a sudden your mix just sounds a lot better and a lot clearer, and you find that you don't need to keep adding things that are trying to shield the issue that are there. So
it all together, you give me life, you give me life. I know the tides are gonna turn, I know the sun's gonna set, I know the things I should have learned, I didn't learn them.
So straight away on my lead synth sound, I have used that sound quite a few times, and I know that there's a peak in there which isn't too pleasing, but you know, for certain songs it sounds good. In this case, it doesn't.
Tides are gonna turn, I know the sun's gonna set, and all the things I should have learned.
Let me and I'm just going to take some of that top end off. I'm going to just add a shelf and start pulling back slightly.
I didn't learn them yet, and I know everybody changes, and I know right now I'm never gonna let you down. It's a lesson. Tides are gonna turn, I know the sun's gonna set, and all the things.
I'm actually going to put this on a dynamic EQ, just so that it's only bringing that peak down when it is hitting, because I'm noticing it's pulling out some of the energy from the rest of the melody now.
Tides are gonna turn, I know the sun.
So let's take that back up, and we're going to pull that down. Yeah. So something that's just annoying me straight away before we get to some of the other elements is just that kick on the drop. You can hear that click, the attack at the start. So I'm just going to mute the vocals a sec and have a quick. Gonna have a look at the tuning again as well. You know, and the thing is as well is that when you're doing mix downs, they can get really finicky, and it might be 0.5 of a number that, you know, but at the end of the day, it's how it makes you feel. You know, it's not how important it is to make sure you get it at this 0.5 of a number and it's, you know, doing what it should do. It's how it feels. That's why you'll always see me kind of like turning my head and not looking at the screen, because I'm like, how does it feel, rather than what I'm seeing on the screen. So be mindful of that as well. So what I'm doing is I'm just making a bit of room for the kick. They're both quite, obviously we've got the sub bass here that I'm doing that to, and then you've got the kick, and I'm noticing around the 90 to 100k area that they are fighting a little bit. So we're just gonna make some room. Cool. We're in a pretty good place right now. It feels like this is something that I could play out and it's going to stand up with other records that I play. So let's have a look at some other final bits here. And then I think it would be pretty good to road test this on a weekend and try it out and see how it stands up.